Hi, Stitchers. Welcome to Tatreez Talk, where we share conversations about Palestinian embroidery. I'm Amani here with my co host Lena, chatting with talented embroiderers and artists, sharing their stories, inspirations, and the cultural significance behind their work.
On today's episode, we are chatting with Samar, a Palestinian organizer and a new friend that we made during the 2024 Tatreez Retreat. We are so excited to have you on the show. Welcome to Tatreez Talk, Samar.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Yay, we are very excited. We told you before we started recording, but when we were talking about guests for this season, you are on both of our lists. So we're really excited to chat with you and dive a little deeper and share your story with the listeners. So starting off, we'd love to ask you to share about you and your family's connection to Palestine.
Yeah, of course. So my family immigrated to America. Now we're based in Pennsylvania in 2001. So it was actually a month after 9/11.
Oof.
We came, it was such a crazy experience, like hearing the stories from my parents, because I was two and my sister was 6 months. So then we came here. My family was living in Tulkarem. My mom was living in a village, Allar, and my dad was in the city.
Mhm.
And we have been back twice since then. And the most recent time was in 2019. Me and my family went for about a month and a half. We just stayed with family the entire time, basically getting to know all of our family members as adults. So that was like a very important moment for me. I felt so connected. Like you say that you're Palestinian, and then when you get to go and like experience things, it feels like the connection is much stronger. Like something inside of you wakes up almost. And then getting to know your family members that you just kind of do the like, السلام عليكم كيف حالك خالته أنا منيحة الحمد لله كل حدا بيسلم and then that's it. It's like now you have something to talk about. So that was kind of like such a life-changing experience for me. But that's our connection to Palestine. We came here in 2001, and inshallah, as soon as we can, like trying to go back with my mom.
hmm And so you still have a lot of family there. You said you met them now as an adult. This was the most recent time when you went the first time. How old were you then?
I was in third grade, so
Oh, so
however
you
old
were still
kids
like a
are.
little baby. Yeah. So
Mhm.
how would you say those two experiences differed for you, and how do you look back at those two experiences visiting?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the first experience was probably it it probably meant more for the people who were like the adults who were coming to see their niece for the first time, and
hmm
like my older cousins. Like my family is kind of the baby on my dad's side of the family. Everybody is like, I have cousins who are older, who are my mom's age. So
hmm
we were kind of like connecting with them in that way. And then I think it was nicer for my parents. I don't remember like a whole lot from that trip. So
Yeah.
for me, it was nice to be able to say that I had been back since we came, and that like it was like a plan in the future. So then in 2019 when we got to go, I was so excited. We had so much luggage, and like also then like so much, I just like cannot stop thinking about how you will never just be buying your tickets. Like you're always going to buy
Nope.
your tickets and gifts for everyone that you think of.
Yep.
So so I think that like being able to go and visit and like consciously, like I was journaling, I was like taking videos that kind of felt obnoxious in the moment, but you look back and you're
hmm
like, thank God that we have these memories. I lost my grandfather and my grandmother on my dad's side, and my grandmother on my
Allah
mom's
yarhamhum.
side, Taisha. And I think like also we were able to go and like see them and have a relationship with them before that, and like kind of seeing them in like their better states. So
hmm
that was also something that like, extremely grateful for, and like felt like it made the trip much more significant.
hmm Yeah. And so that kind of takes us to Tatreez and your relationship to Tatreez. Like, love to hear about like what your relationship was like to Tatreez growing up.
Yeah, actually, I never like thought twice about like what Tatreez was called. We all just had the same little like things that you put the tissues in, and like like we all just had these things in our homes, and I just
Yes.
thought, oh, this is like an Arab or like a Palestinian thing. Like we
Mhm.
all just have these, but I never thought more about like what is it, and like how people were creating them. And a lot of the stuff that I had was handmade because my aunt makes a lot of really cool, like not
Mhm.
just things that are tatreez, but also like the beading where like they create little like boxes and like
Mhm.
chests. She does a
Mhm.
lot of this stuff. So I didn't even realize, like, man, she probably spent like years on like
Mhm.
all of the things that we just have in our house that I never thought about. Um, Neither of my grandparents really Tatreez on either side. My mom did a little bit, but like mostly when she came to America, like saw cross stitch things like in Michael's and like would buy
Mhm.
the kids. So we have like a cute little house, and like underneath it says like God bless your home, but like
Mhm.
not a lot of Palestinian stuff. So
Mhm.
I like on my own started to like look into it. It was like the Ramadan of 20, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but I remember my first project ever was Bayan's, which is Bedan Collective's Ramallah chess panel. And
Mhm.
I had so much fun doing it during Ramadan. It felt so like, and then me and my mom started to do more tatris together, like sitting together, watching stuff. So it was kind of like a new thing that we brought into like the house after. And now my sister does tatris, my best friends do tatris. Like, it's just like started to grow, which is so interesting. I think like a lot of people have different types of stories where like they saw people doing them when they were younger and like never thought a lot about it, but we didn't really have a lot of it around except for these little trinkets in the house.
So did this open up conversations with your aunt who does do that work?
It actually has a little bit. We talked on the phone a little bit this year, and it was just kind of like being able to mention, like, like I have gotten to a point where I like taught a little class at a local university. Like she was like she was excited to hear about it. I really want to learn, and it's easier to do this in person. It's like the distance then makes it so hard when you want to have conversations about these things with like your like you're not distant relatives, but like physically distant
Yeah.
relatives. Because it's like such a nice thing to sit down and be able to like watch them teach you different
Mm.
things. But I think like the first thing on my list is like when we go back home, like going to like look at all of the different things that she created that I didn't even notice when I went in 2019. If you would have asked me
Yeah.
what Tatreez was, I wouldn't have known.
Wow.
So crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like it's a quick journey too. So like obviously now you're saying you do tattoos with your mom, with your sister. How has that, how do you feel like tattoos, especially tattoos directly with your family, has changed your like perception of your Palestinian identity?
I think I think it kind of gives us a space to feel like really grounded in it. Like we feel like we are with our hands, and a lot of us feel this way, right? Like with your
Mhm.
hands, you're expressing your culture and like able to do something and create something beautiful. So when I bought my sister's for the gift I bought her for her birthday last year was the folklore one that they have all of the
Mhm.
different motifs. So we bought the Ramallah one, and she's like working through each one of them, and we're just like finding ourselves like casually having conversations about different motifs, like casually having conversations about like what things feel significant or not, and then they also result in talking about politics, then they result
Mhm.
in gossip, and then they result, and it's like, you feel like you're like one of the sittats who's like sitting in a circle, and like this is the thing. So it kind of almost validates it, like, which is like such a weird way to say it, but like it feels like very affirming, like you're sitting and like you guys are watching TV but like doing something that is so meaningful, and like so, and thankfully has become so accessible.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's interesting you use the word like political conversations because our listeners don't know, but Amani and I know that you're quite active as well within like organizing and thinking about getting the word out like on the streets and stuff. And I'm curious to hear like how Tatriz has kind of impacted that practice or not practice like that the way that you show up in that in those spaces as well. Like have you kind of seen them as different or are they just kind of I don't know. Does my question make sense?
It makes so much sense because I think I did kind of see them as different when I first was doing it. It was like, okay, so like before, we're talking pre-October 7th,
Mhm.
I definitely saw them as different. I was organizing for work, I was organizing for Palestine, I was doing like small things like on the side, and then having hobbies, and like would pick up my Tatreez every now and then. I wasn't, it took me a long time to get through the tote bag that I have because I was like picking it up every like month and a half and like hyper fixating for like a couple hours and then putting it down again. But what I found was that like during, and I talked about this with like some of my organizing groups, but like during meetings we would be on, especially like from I think October to like February, I would be in meetings for like work and then organizing from like 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. Like we would be going weeks at a time, and I found myself like at some point feeling kind of exhausted and picking up like my needle and cloth and like doing tatreez while the meetings are happening, taking my
Mhm.
notes, doing like thinking about what everybody has to say, like trying to, and then realizing that like this is something that has been really grounding to me and wanting it to be something bigger. So then it's like bringing people in to like when we go out to sit down and have a discussion about like something that we want to do upcoming, some me and some of my like I Tatreez, and like I had a friend who was in JVP, she would crochet, and like we would just sit in a cafe and we would talk about like whatever our plans were and like whatever we were trying to plan for in the future, and like it would be like this kind of vibe, and like feeling like it was something that could ground like organizers. We had like Palestinian healing circles. It was going to be a part of like Tatreez was going to be like one of the things, like instead of a stress ball, like we could do this thing that feels like pretty meaningful. And then we can talk more about it after, but like it has sparked recently me being like, it's been a long time of
Mhm.
us trying to figure out what is it that we're supposed to do, like what is the right thing to do politically, what is the next decision. And for personally, like I am like, I mean, a lot of people, we're all not sure like what the answer is of like what to do next, but what I do know is that base building in our communities is really important. And what better way to do that than through Tatreez circles? Like what better way to bring
Mhm.
people together, all of us sitting in a room, some people knowing like exactly what they're working on and some people not, but like taking moments of like just solitude to focus on your project a little bit, and then getting to know the person who's next to you, seeing them more on a regular basis. Some people, you know, this is a very early initiative, but like people talking about bringing their relatives and people who've been isolated in the community, like
Mhm.
this just has felt like so intertwined that I don't know, like it's definitely like I think I for a while I was struggling to find what it is that I thought my thing would be, and then like doing more tatreez, like meeting so many people like in the community, and like the all of the communities, like even the tatreez community has like really shed a light onto this thing, which makes me feel like this is, you know, this is so intertwined, and like we all need to be doing this.
Okay, so you just talked about this a little bit with like Tatreez and community, and the importance of this kind of combination, right? And especially since the start of the genocide, Palestinians have felt very disconnected, very isolated, very in limbo, not knowing what to do next. A lot of I can count. There's endless numbers of people I know who have been dealing with depression throughout all of this. So I'd love to dive a little bit more into the work that you're doing and what you hope to see more from this like Tatreez Circle community building work that you're doing in Philly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what I'm really hoping to see is that because we don't really know what our next step is, we don't know what is the next thing that feels like this, like BDS is very long. BDS takes a long time. It's so important, but it's not like hot and sexy. Like people are wanting some kind of like action. So whenever that moment comes, I am dreaming of like having the community that like we can go to and be like, hey guys, like here, this Tatreez circle is happening. Like we know that these people come once or twice a month, like to do whatever. Like let's talk about these different ideas, or like this is what our next step is supposed to be, or like this is how we can be there for we. I'm involved in PCRF Philly, and we just welcomed a girl from Gaza yesterday. So this, which is now in December. And when we did, it was like we had certain people that we could reach out to, be a community for her when she comes. I think like something that feels really important. I think that this also helped spark a lot of this is like realizing that like we can't do so much, but when we have people who like we're welcoming into Philly, we have a few different patients that came from Gaza. We want to be able to like reach out to our community members and see like, and like, know that like this person loves to cook every time somebody needs a meal. Like this person is like always down. Like this person has a lot of children. If anybody wants to, like come and like bring like this child life energy around, like people, like this is like the place to do it, or like whatever it is. Like I like really envision like getting to know different community members. This is like it's kind of become like a um bringing out a lot of different Palestinians from different parts of the city and different circles that like we didn't really expect to be together in the same room. And like Tatreez is just something that is like creating that opportunity. And that's really what I want to do is I want to just like make space for people to get to know each other. And I really want to make space for people to be able to I want to make space for people to be able to, like get to know like the people who like want to be there for each other and like want to be like a part of this community that we're developing.
That's amazing. And I know that you've had a few Tatri circles, at least in before the end of 2024. How have those looked? Like, are there any moments that kind of stick out from those Tatri circles that really kind of showcase the community building component of Tatris?
Well, so far we have our second one that's coming up this weekend. So the one that we and anything before was kind of like casual, like I would do like a little workshop, like a mini tutorial and bring these like tiny kids with just like one string piece of cloth, and like we would just have motifs lying around. Um and we it was funny because when we go around and like introduce ourselves, everyone was like, oh, like what brought you here today? Like, and what are you working on? Like, not a lot of people knew what they were working on because they were coming with the assumption that they knew I would bring them something to work on. And then, and then I'm here because I think that what Samar is doing is really cool. And I like this, the idea of like this happening and becoming a thing. And I think because once a month feels so like small and like easy to commit to. Like if
Yeah.
you just get some time and like once a month this is going to happen, even if you skip, that you'll be there the next month. Like it feels like people felt excited, and it's something that's accessible to people. It's something that like people felt it. So I kind of like was like, wow, all of these people came, and these were all people that like, I know through one way or another. And I'm
Hmm.
excited to like, and it just kind of like brought me some excitement knowing that like these people are going to go to their circles and talk about how cool it was. Everybody had a really great time, and like I saw people interacting that like are I know like aren't in any of the same circles and probably wouldn't have met otherwise.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool when it comes to being able to do any kind of craft and like creating things together, especially with like, you're actually working on something that you can share your progress with like the person that's next to you. It's the
Hmm.
easiest icebreaker to be able to like just ask people what they're working on. And it's so nice to hear like, people's stories of why something is significant to them.
Yeah.
That's probably been like I heard like a couple people were talking about that, and that was like my favorite piece.
Yeah, I always love like that's something I love doing when I teach classes. Is like asking people like what brought you to Tetris, because whether they're Palestinian or they're a Palestinian ally who wants to learn, it's like there's always like I don't know, there's always like something very meaningful about it with which I think really speaks to like the art itself. Like it's not a frivolous art, which is why
Yeah.
emphasizing that it's art and not just a craft. Um,
It's so
but
true. When I came back from the retreat, I actually shared everybody's reason with everyone in my family because I loved it so much. I went through our group photo and I was like, this is this person, and this is why they started doing Tatreez, and and like this is where this person is from and based and everything, because I was just so amazed by like all of the different people that came national, like, and like from Canada, like all
yeah.
across the country together just because of their love for this art, with our love for
Mhm.
this art, which is, it was just so, I just want to second that and be like, I really love hearing, and I have to tell everybody when I know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's like actually, I was going to ask you about your experience with the Tatreez retreat since we are talking so much about community. And so you, as Lena mentioned, like we made a new friend at the retreat, made a lot of new friends, a lot of amazing women came out. And you were one of the people that joined us for our second Tatreez retreat. And I want to just hear from you, your experience, and like what that was like, especially knowing that, you know, you're still, you know, you've been doing this art for a few years. You're working on building like local community. You know, we're all going through this genocide together. Um, I just want to hear about like what that experience was like for you.
It was such a magical experience. And I think that people hear us say that and don't know what that means exactly unless like they experience something similar. I went on the retreat and I was like very last minute added to the list. Like we had to wait for a spot to open up because, so like subhanallah, I reached out to Bayan after I finished the project with her, and we were just kind of Instagram friends. Then we met in person at Palestine Rights Festival in 2023, which was really great and so sweet. And then kind of just like chatted occasionally. And when the opportunity for the retreat came up and I missed the deadline for the tickets, we like waited and probably connected like every other week, waiting for somebody to drop out, which I felt so bad about, but I was really trying to go on this retreat.
Oh my God, I'm
So,
dying.
like, I just needed to share the story of like how I even got there, which is like I put my deposit down like 2 weeks before, and it worked out in my favor, you know. And then and going, it was, I was definitely nervous. I actually thought that everybody would be way more advanced than me, and I would be learning from everyone who was around me, which is true and not true in different ways. Like I did have a place, even though I was still new. Like
Mm,
that was something that like I was nervous about kind of before going in, but getting there and like seeing people practicing tattoos in different ways, people having, you know, different reasons for doing different types of styles, like whatever it is, like it was honestly just so incredible for me to see, because at in this moment I didn't know a lot of people in person who like were actually practicing tattoos, like
mhm.
mostly just like people on Instagram, or like I like met a couple people like, and like older khaltos, like that was pretty much it. So coming to this retreat and like I think that, and I talked about this so much after the retreat, but I think that to enjoy Tatreez holistically, you have to be a very particular type of person. You have to be anti-Zionist. You can't
Yes,
practice Tatreez and be a Zionist.
yes.
So you have to be an anti-Zionist, and you have to have a level of patience and appreciation for art
Hmm.
that everyone doesn't have. So if you have those two things, anybody can be friends. There were
Hmm.
all types of people on the retreat. I was so nervous when I went, especially then we got like, I was like in a shared room with somebody that I didn't know. And like, that was like very new for me. Like, I've only recently started like traveling and like putting myself in like different situations like that. So being able to kind of like put myself really out there was so incredible, because I was welcomed by the most incredible women, and honestly just like gave me a lot of perspective on how important it was. Like it felt important to me before, but like after leaving, I felt like so motivated to start doing circles. Like I felt I had done one workshop before that at Haverford College, and I'm going back in the upcoming winter, and I'm so excited to go back because I learned so many things from everybody who has been around me. Like my portfolio is growing, and I can remember all of the different people who have given me advice on different things that I've been doing, like who taught me how to do these different stitches, who taught me the words for them, like where I'm getting my needle menders, where I'm getting, like now it feels more important that like I put an order for Mint Amani, and like now I'm like, I'm so excited to get Amani stuff.
How creepy.
It's just like, I think it gave me like a level of appreciation for this that I don't know if I could have had without it, because seeing people like going to circles and like which circles by themselves feel really meaningful, but doing a full retreat with people and like opening up with like different, like we're talking about our childhood, we're talking about college, we're talking about like our lives that exist outside of this retreat, that we all just pause so that we can just have this moment of bliss. It was incredible. And like, you know, being able to have hard conversations too about like things that are happening in the real world, that you sometimes it feels like we're, you know, we feel guilty that we're enjoying life so much, and like taking the moment, like I definitely like that my silver lining after October 7th is the community that like has come out, because people need each other. We cannot suffer in silence. And like being able to like be able to share space with people who understand that is very different. Actually, there's one story that happened on the retreat that I really want to share, because I've shared it with everybody, and then I'm going to be finished with this question.
Just don't drag anyone.
Not dragging anybody. So somebody on the retreat who so I was like having I don't know, can I use names or should I not use names? It's like, actually this was just a very sweet story that we've talked about many times. I was talking to Emma, and we were just chatting about I don't remember what it was, but the important thing is that Maya came over, who's non-Palestinian, and asked us if we wanted coffee, because she was going to get coffee from the guest thing or whatever. So she comes back, and Emma is like asking how much the coffee was so that she can give her the amount for it. And she's like, I am so grateful to be here. Like, you do not have to give me anything. I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm so grateful to be able to experience Palestinian joy through all this Palestinian grief. And we were both sobbing as every word came out of her mouth. And I actually think about that the most, I think, when I think back about like our experiences at the retreat, is like the amount of joy that we could feel, because you have to be such a particular type of person to enjoy Tatreez, and because you have to be vulnerable to an extent when you're on a retreat. So like I think about like how those moments that just feel like, I don't know, like I would do anything to like be like sharing space like in these moments again.
Oh man. Amani and I are both like
I know,
on the verge of tears.
That is
That
really,
is,
I'm glad you shared that. That's really beautiful. It's really
yeah,
sweet.
that is so powerful. And you one of the things that you mentioned that also reminded me of kind of one of my favorite things to notice at Tatri's workshops or circles is the people who come on their own, like not with a
Mhm.
friend or not with a family member, and
Yeah.
how they just like, first of all, I love that people are so courageous to do that. I think we all need to be doing more of that. But also, I just love how they can just seamlessly enter into that space and feel a part of something bigger. And I think that's something that all of us are craving during this time, because we see this horrific, what's happening. And it's like you're in, like, it feels like you're alone, but there's actually so many people who are feeling the same pain that you're feeling. And Taltriz is such an easy way to do that. So I'm curious about kind of your spaces. Who's coming to these Taltriz circles like so far? Are they Palestinian? Are they non-Palestinian? Are they coming alone with a friend? Like, who are the types of people who are kind of engaging together in this art form?
Oh my God. We have people who are like, who like are the people who come to the Palestinian healing circles because they're Palestinian and they're grieving, and but they're not involved in the organizing space. They just are involved in like this like really specific Arab community that exists in West Philly, which like anybody from Philly is gonna know what I'm talking about. Um, and then we have people who are organizers. We have people who I've met because I'm putting everybody in the same spaces as much as often as I can, and like inviting everybody to everything. We have people who are like working in politics. We have people who are not Palestinian, who are like not connected at all. Again, like this last one was like a lot of my friends, but people who like see this as being something like more meaningful than just learning a new craft, and like understand that and want the concept of being able to share space and with community of people who like like are good people. Anybody who knows me at this point has heard like these different stories from the retreat, and like know like what I mean when I say like Tatreez is very special. So I think like once offered the invitation to be able to do it in community with other people who are like willing to also do that, I think like that's like kind of like what's bringing everybody out, because people are coming from like different areas, like people who maybe are advocates but not like public advocates, just like in their circles advocates, and like doing what they can and like what's accessible to them advocates. They're coming out because it's, even though we know Tatreez to be very political, some people like, it's not, generally speaking, it's like something that feels accessible to people in their own form of protest. So I think like that's also the type of person that we're getting, which is really cool. I'm excited to see what happens this next time, because I think after people saw some pictures, and so I'm also going to be so excited to like listen to this like after it has passed to be like, wow, end up work. I know that it's going to end up like being really great and being very beautiful. We have like a great venue. This week go to Making Worlds bookstore, and they hold a lot of different like social justice events. So shout out to them for like always hosting free events so for the community, and like people who are like in this like very specific like Arab community in West Philly like are hearing about it and like getting excited and wanting to come. So just like it's like a lot. I think like Palestinians, non-Palestinians, Muslims, non-Muslims, random, like there were people that I haven't met before, which I'm not sure like if they're seeing it from Making Worlds advertising it, or if it's just, I don't know, maybe from a friend. But it's been interesting to kind of like see that it has been like a lot of different people.
Yeah, I agree with what you were talking about as far as like Tatreez being like an accessible form for people to like get into the quote unquote Palestine conversation, right? And Lena, I feel like you and I have talked about this before, like probably like recording and off recording. But it is definitely this entry point for people who may not know a lot of history, or really think it's quote unquote too complicated, but they clearly want to learn something. And so I've definitely seen a lot of conversations started through Tatreez. So I definitely 100% agree with everything you're saying on that. And we have to now hold you accountable. As I said, we're recording this in advance. And so by the time this airs, we're hoping that there are once a month, Tatreez circles in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If not, if this comes out and someone has not kept her
I
promise,
deserve to be publicly
I
shamed.
want you all to go into her comments and drag her. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, girl. I'm gonna do that. But if you want to do it, no, I'm just kidding.
No, you should just be like, when's the next one? Like,
What
encourage
is
me.
it,
Positive
girl?
encouragement, you
Oh yeah,
know?
yeah. Be positive, I guess. Whatever. Oh man, that's hilarious. Okay, so
This is how I'm gonna
Samar.
advertise it.
Yeah, this is perfect advertising. So Samad, let's talk about too. I know obviously the Tatreez circles are a big thing that you are working on. Are there any other major Tatreez projects that you have going on right now?
Oh my God. Since this is going to be released, like by the time like I share with my mom,
Okay.
I have got to talk about Amani's photo Tatreez class, because I am so excited about my project. I'm working on a photo, as I said, that my grandmother passed away recently, Allah yarhamha, and
Uh,
she and we have a photo from 2019 of my grandmother, my mom, and my youngest sister. So I have like begun to do
Yay!
like a border on it, and it is so sweet, and I am so excited. This is like, I was really struggling trying to decide what photo I wanted to use, and then as soon as like this came to my mind, I was like, there's no competition here, like this is going to be
Yeah,
my first one.
agreed.
So this is like the thing that I'm the most excited about. I have a couple other little projects that I'm working on. I will say that I am work something that probably I would be announcing is like being able to host like workshops outside of circles in the
Hmm.
community is like, like what that would be like either announced or coming up by
Hmm.
the time this comes out. So everybody should keep an eye
Amazing.
out, follow me on Instagram.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, we'll like definitely make sure to include all those links so people can stay up to date. And I'm so excited to see how this picture turns out. Like we were talking, someone took my class yesterday, and I saw the picture, and we were talking a little bit about the design, and it's gonna be so beautiful. I'm really excited. I'm also really excited about your mom's reaction. Oh,
Me
you
too.
gotta
I'm not
record
gonna tell
it.
her until the end.
Yeah, record her reaction when you give it to her. Okay, Samad, of course, we always like to ask people before we say goodbye. We want to understand from you any major life lessons that you have gained from Tatreez.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful question. Um, I think it has to be like community is so important. Like Tatreez feels so important, but like Tatreez with the community feels to me a big reason of why this is also like an art and not just a craft. I
Hmm.
think like, being there for the people who are around you, letting people be there for you when you need them too. It like always feels kind of like now it feels like intertwined with like also having like a needle in your thread in your hand, like it's like those nights when you want to go see your friend because you guys like feel heavy that day because of the news and like you guys just sit and do tatreez together and like it's those things like tatreez has really shown me how important community is, especially for Palestinians.
That is so beautiful, Samad. Thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate your time. I guess so that we do have a shout out for you. Where can everyone find you and get in touch? And we'll obviously put it in
My
the show
brand
notes.
new Instagram, which is not going to be that
Yes.
brand new. It's at Tatreez with Samar, and I don't know how many dots are in it, so we're just going to have to include that somewhere else.
We'll link it, don't worry.
I love it. I love it. And I guess, do you want to do any plugs for like activist work that you're doing in Philly as well?
Yeah, I mean, definitely everybody should keep up with PCRF Philly. We've just welcomed well, this is the first, the girl and her sister, Tasneem, came yesterday in December. We're going to be hosting events and stuff to be able to, like create spaces for like community, create like, so kind of keep up with the PCRF Philly Instagram account, and then you'll be able to keep up with different things that we're putting on. It's going to be directly tied to being able to create a space and opportunity for people to get to know our Palestinian family that's coming from Gaza.
Amazing. We'll definitely include that. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was so amazing.
I loved having someone on. She is so hilarious. We always have a great time. I knew we'd have a great conversation with her, and just love hearing everything she has to say about Tatreez and community. It resonates so much. I know with myself, I know I'll speak for you and say I know it resonates with you too. But like it was just beautiful to hear from her.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear it from the perspective of someone who's really active too, because she is, I think from, I mean, this is maybe an assumption, but I feel like she's in a lot of places where maybe she doesn't know everybody there because it's just people
Hmm.
coming together on one specific cause or some sort of event or something. And so it's interesting to hear it from that perspective because it's making me think actually a lot about who comes to some of the circles, who comes to the workshops, because I mean, we knew this with the Tatreez Retreat, like it's people who are so different
Hmm.
and they're still kind of in the same room. And then because we have Tatreez kind of at the core of all of this, everyone has so much in common and it's super seamless and convert. Like maybe it's a little bit awkward at first getting to know each other, but then as soon as you pick up Tatreez, everyone, you can sense it. Like they relax, they let their guards down, they begin like just having normal conversations and before you know it there's like bonds created between everyone who's there. So it was nice to kind of hear that perspective from her because I know that she is active in those spaces. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And, as you said, and as she mentioned while we were talking to her too, the idea that Tatriz is this easy entry point for people into the conversation around Palestine. It even if somebody is an ally who means well and who is, on the right side of everything, it still could be very intimidating for them to come in as a non-Palestinian in a Palestinian space. And so Tatreez is something that, brings Palestinians and non-Palestinians together. Like we saw that with our Tatreez retreat. We had so many amazing Palestinian women and non-Palestinian women who came together and we're literally together based on Tetris. We see that in our Tetris circles that we host in our cities. I know, obviously, Lena, you have your online community, and I'm sure that's also filled with both Palestinian and non-Palestinians. So it is like this beautiful like entryway into resistance. It is this beautiful entryway into the conversation around Palestine. So if you're listening to this and you are not already stitching, like, and this is not like motivating you, like, what are we doing?
And if you are stitching, send this to someone who hasn't started stitching and you
Yes.
think might want to stitch. 100%, 100%. Well, thank you, our dear listener, so much for listening to another episode of Tatreez Talk. We want to hear about your Tatreez journey. So please, please, please share your stories with us at tatreeztalk@gmail.com. And we just might have you on an upcoming episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platform and be sure to leave a 5-star review. You can follow me at Lina Stolb and Amani at Minamani. And of course, follow the pod at Tatreez Talk. We will talk to you guys soon.